Jonathan Chandler coming to you from the Virginia School of Traditional Arts. We're going to give you a little walk around and talk to you a little bit about how these benches were made and where they're going. They're leaving tomorrow for the Woodlands, Texas. They have a, I think it's every year, art bench contests, and this year there was 4 benches that they wanted you to make, and I was lucky enough to be chosen to make 2 of them. And we have one that's looks like an old tree, and we have one here. I hope you think it looks like an airplane and some clouds. That's what I tried to get it to do. We're going to take a few minutes and talk to you about how they're made and what they're made out of. They're steel. These are hollow, but they've been welded all the way around all the sides. They're made up of multiple pieces. This is a piece, this is a piece, and then there's probably 3 pieces that make this little curve. And then down here, this is a piece. You know, it's this particular one probably has over 50 pieces in it, and the tree one has probably twice that. This bench is named Flight to the Sun, and it was in honor of a gentleman that was a pilot, and the person that commissioned it wanted it to show the airplane flying towards the sun with realistic clouds, and I have done my very best in doing that. It's made of, the plane itself is made of 1/8" steel, and it's actually layers. I call it 2D plus. The actual pieces of metal are flat on the plane, but some of them have been cut out, and there's a depth to this, there's a depth to the wing, there's a little bump right here, and then the tail section here is even farther back. So this is a piece, this is a piece, and this is a piece, and actually the nose is made up of 2 pieces back to about here, because this was feeling pretty thin. I was afraid somebody'd have to be prying on it, so I made it 2 thicknesses, so it's a 1/4 inch thick up here. The clouds on that side, the background color was a little darker, and on this side a little lighter, to keep in the theme of this is closer to the sun and that's farther away from the sun, like the sun is rising. And this particular bench is made up of approximately 50 pieces, probably a few more than that, but approximately 50 pieces. The clouds, inside each cloud is an arm that comes down and a leg that finishes off the leg that comes through the bottom, and they're 3-dimensional and actually encapsulate this back leg and part of the front leg here. We have the framework for the seat itself is made out of 2.5 by 1.5 inch tube, and it's an 1/8 of an inch thick, so you could literally put as many people on this as you want, and it's not going to hurt it. The feet are made out of the same material, or not the feet, the legs are made out of the same material. This is rebar, big rebar, and I like it for the sun because I think it looks kind of like it's rays, so that's why I chose it. We put a nice little round cap on the top of the post here. All of it's been painted with oil-based paint. Should last a regular time. Now on this side we have the Windswept Oak, and it is made out of mostly pipe. The tree part especially is made out of mostly pipe. And each one of these pipes, everywhere it's a curve, if you take a straw and bend it, the straw bends and it makes a flat place. Well, we didn't want that for this, so each one of these curves was made by cutting out notches, several notches. Like this curve probably had 4 or 5 notches in it to make it a nice even curve, and then you heat it up and you bend those notches together and then weld them back and then grind all that back off round again, if that makes sense. But every curve you see had that done to it, and there are many curves on this. Now the smaller pieces are solid, much easier to bend. You can just heat those up and bend those, or you can bend them cold if they're small enough. But you can bend those no problem. They don't have to be notched like that. But all these bigger pieces were notched. Again, with the 2.5 by 1.5 inch framework for the bench, to mount to, and this bench is actually drilled and tapped, and with the stainless steel screws. Underneath here is branches that came up and hold up this part, and I think that looks really good. I was saying, each curve here has notches cut out. This curve probably had about 8 notches, same with this one. To make those nice gentle curves, you've got to notch it lots of times and then weld it back. Everywhere there's a pipe that meets another pipe, you can feel it a little bit more here because this pipe is super thick. But every time it meets them, like it meets here, the pipe is not just butted together like this and welded. It's neck down and forced into the other one, so it's an actual physical connection, and it's welded around there as well. So these are rock solid. You can put on those as much as you want to. I added a couple knot holes on this bench. I'll show you those when we walk around. But this bench you can sit on the end here and lean back on the main tree trunk. Of course, you can slide down here and lean back there. All of it's meant to be more or less comfortable. It may not be flat, but it kind of fits your body. The seat is actually rocked back a little bit. The back is rocked back, same with the airplane, the Flight to the Sun bench. And this one is called the Windswept Oak, was the name we chose for it. And again, painted with oil-based paint. Should last a good long while. All the texture you're seeing on this bench is actually weld. I taught welding for a long time in Halifax County, and this texture was very familiar to me because this is what happens when you don't weld very well. And what I mean by not welding very well is the kids would go and cut the machine down too low and then go really fast, and this is what you get when you do that, which is this kind of bumpy texture. And so I used that information that I gained over my career of teaching, and we used that on this bench. First time I'd ever used it, but it turned out really well. It takes time, but it's doable. So in each one of these benches, this bench I have about 6 weeks in, and the Flight to the Sun bench I have about 5 weeks in. And they're not the same weeks. I worked on this one first and got it all the way done, and then I worked on the Flight to the Sun. Not that it was any easier, but it was less grinding. There's still a lot of grinding, but this thing was really a lot of grinding. And when you cut those notches out, you had to grind those, and then you had to weld them, then you had to grind them again. So lots and lots of work. I hope y'all enjoy these. I hope they satisfy the wants and needs of the people that had chosen these plans. And I did them to the best of my ability, just like I drew them. And so I wanted it to look as much like a tree as I could get it. So that's why we chose to do that. And again, Jonathan Chandler, thank you so much for having me. Love to work with you again.